Ik stel met heel veel plezier de volgende spreker voor, John Molyneux. John heeft een heel veelzijdig karakter. Hij is notorious in Brighton, waar hij op de universiteit een staking heeft geleid, maar heeft tegelijkertijd het talent om prachtig te schrijven en te vertellen over Rembrandt en Leonardo da Vinci. En ik ben erg blij dat dit jaar op het Marxisme Festival was. John is van SWP in Ierland en zal jullie kort toespreken in het Engels.
Right, comrades. First of all, I would like very much to thank the International Socialists for inviting me to participate in this excellent event. It's been fantastic. We had a wonderful start with the opening rally for the cleaners' struggle, which I've been hearing about and how inspiring that was. And I was also particularly pleased to discover that you were having a protest in solidarity with the Irish over the referendum for the treaty. I need to announce it again. It's Wednesday, the day before, at 10 o'clock at the Irish Embassy. So I urge everybody to support that. The vote in Ireland, there's a lot at stake in this. It's very important because, first of all, there is what is involved in the treaty itself, namely writing austerity into the law. And we in Ireland, the crisis has been very deep there. We've already had 3 years of savage cutbacks on austerity and attacks on people. And this just will consign us to 20 more years of the same. So there's that in itself. There's also the attack, as has been said, on democracy, in the sense that this law will not be able to be changed however you vote in Parliament. So they're saying, you know, whatever the people of Ireland or Europe generally vote for, you doesn't matter. We've written it into law. It's also important in terms of the struggle in Ireland, particularly because originally last year the level of struggle was low. This year the struggle has been rising, particularly over the question of household charges, which they're introducing as part of the austerity packages, and particularly with workers fighting back over unemployment in factory occupations. And when you have a referendum like this in the middle of a rising tide of struggle, it will either give that struggle a huge impetus to go forward or it will hold it back. So the treaty vote is important, and the solidarity is extremely welcome. I would say also it has much bigger implications. It has implications for you and for us all that we develop this international solidarity, because at the moment one of the main ideological weapons that our rulers have is to divide us on a national basis, so that we get constantly in Ireland, I'm sure everywhere throughout Europe, the fact that we are not and should not be like the Greeks, how it's all the Greeks' fault and they're lazy and they don't pay their taxes and they cause trouble and so on. Whereas our government says we in Ireland are the good boys of Europe. You know, we do what we're told, and therefore the European banks and so on will look after us. And if we don't do what we're told, oh my God, it'll be a catastrophe and so on. I'm reminded of, in this, of something that I'm sure people have heard here, what Pastor Niemöller said in terms of the struggle against the Nazis, when Pastor Niemöller said, first they came for the communists, but I was not a communist, so I did nothing. Then they came for the Jews, or the trade unionists. I was not a trade unionist, so I did nothing. Then they came for the Jews. I was not a Jew, so I did nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to defend me. Our rulers would like to run this scenario now. First we go for the Greeks, but you don't do anything because you're not Greek. Then they go for the Spanish, but you don't do anything because you're not Spanish. Then they go for the Irish, you don't do anything because you're not Irish. Then they come for you. You know, this is the scenario, and against this scenario, we of course have to establish the opposite. We have to establish the principle that we are all Greeks, we are all Spanish, we are all the working people of Europe and the world who won't pay for their crisis, a logical international revolt. And it has to be said that in the present situation that thanks particularly to the heroic people of Egypt, we now have the basis for a wave of international revolt and revolution against the logic of the bankers and the logic of capitalism. I'm reminded of the fact that at the beginning, the process began in Tunisia, and for a few weeks, all the media said, Egypt is not like Tunisia. Mubarak is much stronger. He won't fall like Ben Ali. Actually, Ben Ali, I think, fell in 21 days, and Mubarak fell in 18 days. Well, and that put a revolution back on the agenda. And that spirit of revolt has spread to the Spanish squares, to the Greek squares, across to the Occupy movement in America and so on. So we do have a logic of international revolt. But we have to remember, I think, what is at stake in this. And what is at stake is nothing less than the future of humanity. We have, as has been said, a world crisis. The whole idea that these are a series of separate national crises, just by coincidence, you have a problem in Greece, a problem in Spain, a problem in Ireland, is absurd. We have a world crisis that began, or broke out, it didn't begin, it broke out in the United States in 2000. The latest in a series of crises that are built into the logic of capitalism that go back at least to the tulip mania in this country in the 16th, 17th century. You know, the first bubble, of which then collapsed, of which we have had many, including the housing bubble and so on. A logic of crisis built into the system. We face 10 years or more of possible global slump with attacks on people left, right and centre across the world. The stakes are very high there, and the stakes are even higher than that, because at the same time as we've got a world economic crisis, and we tend to forget about this, we've also got a world ecological crisis, a crisis of climate change and so on. And we need to think this through. If this is allowed to continue, think what it means. People take the end of the planet or saving the planet. This is the wrong way to understand it. What it means is that on the back of economic crisis, which will impoverish people, and then you have ecological crisis on the back of that. What does it mean? It means if the level of the seas rise, it means millions of people die in Bangladesh, and millions more become refugees. It means the seaboard of China is threatened with flooding. If the Himalayan rivers or the Nile start to dry up, what does that mean for the hundreds of millions of people who depend on its waters? I'll tell you what this means. This then means millions and hundreds of millions of refugees. Now then, think, what will Geert Wilders make of that? What will Le Pen make of that? What will the Jobbik Party or Golden Dawn make of that? It will really be a choice of socialism or barbarism. That really will be the choice that we face, that we're looking at in this situation. And I make no apology. I think we have to think this through. We have to think, what are the consequences of this? We're looking at a generation which will decide the fate of humanity. What do we do about it? And of course, we resist. We need to fight. We need to fight internationally. We need to link up and so on. That's all true. We need to do, like I said, you need to join your union and resist and defend workers' rights. Everybody should do that. But the whole history of workers' revolt and workers' revolutions says you need more than just resistance, more than just trade unions. We need also political organisation. The end of the day, in a revolution, that's what makes the difference between victory and defeat, is whether you have organised in the working class, in every key workplace, in every hospital, school, working class estate, factory, among transport workers, among the cleaners and so on, all of these places, you have a core of activists who have an understanding of the system and the historical task that faces. That's what we have to create. We have to create it here in the Netherlands, we have to create it in Egypt, we have to create it in Greece, we have to create it in Ireland, and we have to create it also in India and Asia and so on. That's what we need to build. What does that mean if we think it through? That means we need to build revolutionary organisation. On that basis, I would appeal to people to join the international socialists here or wherever else you are in the world, because this is not sometimes people say you shouldn't try and recruit people and so on. It's just as if you just wanted your gang to be bigger. I don't give a damn about the size of the gang. What I do want is an organised force that can make the difference between the victory of humanity and the liberation of humanity and the victory of the Wilders, the Le Pens, the Golden Dawns in the future.